Imagine crossing a river every single day on nothing but a fragile log or a shaky boat. Now imagine that the bridge keeping your community alive is made not from stone or concrete, but from the skeleton of airplanes that once soared through the skies. Welcome to Burkina Faso, where innovation, survival, and leadership collide under Ibrahim Traoré's bold vision. This is the story of how one of Africa's most overlooked nations turned wrecked airplanes into lifelines of steel, creating bridges of hope. Burkina Faso, a landlocked country in the heart of West Africa, faces challenges few outsiders can fully understand. For decades, its people have battled droughts, poverty, insecurity, and the crushing weight of being cut off from the sea. But sometimes the greatest obstacle is far simpler: roads, or more specifically, the lack of safe bridges. During the rainy season, rivers swell and villages are cut off. Children can't reach schools, farmers can't bring their crops to markets, pregnant women in labor can't get to hospitals in time. For thousands of Burkinabe families, something as simple as crossing a river becomes a life-or-death struggle. Traditional bridges, made of wood or rope, collapse under the weight of time and floods. Building new bridges with imported steel and concrete is expensive, nearly impossible for a nation with limited resources. And so, year after year, villages remained isolated, dreams remained stalled, and lives continued to be lost. But in 2022, a young man stepped into power with a vision that shook not only Burkina Faso, but the entire region. Ibrahim Traoré, a soldier in his mid-30s, became Africa's youngest head of state. While many saw him as just another military leader, the people of Burkina Faso saw something different. A leader who understood their daily struggles, who spoke their language, who wasn't afraid to think outside the box. Traoré's message was clear: Burkina Faso could not wait for foreign aid or international promises. The country had to survive using its own hands, its own brains, and its own courage. And so, when faced with the impossible task of building durable bridges with almost no money, he and his engineers looked around at what was already available. What they saw would surprise the world. Across West Africa, old airplanes lie abandoned, aircraft grounded after decades of service, rusting away in hangars and scrapyards. To most, they're just junk, broken wings of a forgotten past. But to Ibrahim Traoré's government, they were treasure. The idea was revolutionary: recycle airplane parts, titanium frames, aluminum fuselages, hardened steel landing gears, and repurpose them into bridges strong enough to withstand both floods and time. What was once a machine of flight would become a structure of survival. Engineers began dismantling old aircraft, cutting apart wings and fuselages, salvaging metal that was both lightweight and incredibly strong. Airplane bodies are designed to endure extreme pressure, turbulence, and stress, qualities that also make them perfect for bridges. Instead of paying millions for imported steel, Burkina Faso now had access to a ready-made supply of materials that had already proven their durability above the clouds. The first prototypes were small, simple pedestrian bridges connecting villages over narrow streams. Villagers watched in awe as engineers pieced together chunks of aircraft metal, welding them into sturdy spans that could carry dozens of people at once. Children who once missed school during floods now crossed safely. Farmers who once lost crops now reached markets in time. And for the first time in decades, hope began to flow as freely as the rivers themselves. The innovation didn't stop there. As confidence grew, Traoré's team scaled up the project. Larger bridges were constructed, capable of holding motorcycles, carts, and even trucks. Entire communities once cut off for months every year suddenly found themselves connected, not just physically, but socially and economically. These bridges weren't just metal and bolts. They were veins pumping life into forgotten regions. People began calling them bridges of the sky. because they were born from airplanes that once touched the clouds. What had once symbolized distance and flight now symbolized unity and survival. And in a poetic way, those fallen airplanes found a second life, serving not passengers in the air but families on the ground. The project quickly gained international attention. Some critics scoffed, saying it was a desperate move, a sign of poverty disguised as innovation. But on the ground in Burkina Faso, the reality was undeniable. Villagers didn't care if the bridges came from airplanes or outer space. They cared that mothers could reach hospitals, that children could go to school, that markets once again buzzed with trade. To them, it wasn't desperation, it was genius. Beyond the practical impact, the project carried a symbolic weight. Burkina Faso was showing Africa and the world that solutions do not always have to come from outside. They can be built from within, from what's already around us. In a continent often portrayed as dependent on aid, this was a powerful message of self-reliance. Traoré himself often emphasized this point in his speeches. He reminded people that Africa is rich in resources, talent, and creativity, yet too often trapped by systems that keep it waiting for help from abroad. The bridges made from recycled airplanes became a metaphor for his larger vision, reclaiming African ingenuity, refusing to be defined by scarcity, and turning obstacles into opportunities. The stories from the villages tell it best. In one remote community, a young boy named Musa once had to swim across a river to get to school. Every rainy season, he missed weeks of classes, falling behind his classmates. But with the new bridge, Musa crosses safely each day, books in hand, his future no longer drowned by the river's current. In another village, a pregnant woman named Aissatou went into labor during a heavy storm. Before, she would have been trapped on one side of the river, risking her life and her babies. But now, thanks to the airplane bridge, her family rushed her across in minutes. She delivered a healthy child, a child who, in many ways, represents the very future these bridges are building. And then there are the farmers. Fields of maize, millet, and vegetables that once rotted away in isolation now find their way to bustling markets. Income grows, families eat better, opportunities multiply. A simple bridge does more than connect land. It connects destinies. What makes this story remarkable is not just the engineering, but the philosophy behind it. In a world obsessed with shiny new technologies, Burkina Faso showed that progress can also come from recycling, from repurposing, from seeing value where others see waste. Old airplanes, once symbols of luxury travel and global commerce, became the backbone of rural survival. The project is still young and challenges remain. Dismantling aircraft requires skilled labor and safety precautions. Transporting parts to remote villages is difficult, and as with any infrastructure, maintenance is critical. But the foundation has been laid, both literally and symbolically. Ibrahim Traoré's bridge project is more than metal and rivets. It is a statement that poverty is not the absence of resources, but the absence of imagination. A statement that even in one of the world's poorest countries, innovation can bloom. A statement that leadership is not about waiting for handouts, but about daring to try what no one else has tried. Perhaps that is why this story has captured imaginations far beyond Burkina Faso. It speaks to something universal, the human ability to adapt, to innovate, to survive. It reminds us that solutions do not always require billions of dollars or high-tech labs. Sometimes they require only courage, creativity, and the will to act. As the sun sets over Burkina Faso, its rivers no longer stand as barriers. Airplanes that once flew across continents now lie across waters, carrying not passengers, but possibilities. And for a nation long trapped by geography and hardship, every new bridge is a step toward freedom. In the end, the story of Burkina Faso's airplane bridges is not just about engineering. It's about dignity. It's about resilience. It's about the unshakable belief that even in the harshest conditions, a people can rise, innovate, and build their own path forward. From the wings of old airplanes to the footsteps of children crossing safely, this project is proof that the future does not always come from the sky. Sometimes it comes from the ground beneath our feet, strengthened by the dreams of those who refuse to give up.